Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Welcome to the show. 365 days a year, we are on these microphones, on your screens, in your ears, just blabbing about the Minnesota Vikings. And this is actually our favorite time of year. Besides, I mean, the season is its own animal, and the season's great. But we love the what could be season that is free agency and draft and looking ahead at how the team can get better and build. And so these are some of our favorite episodes between now and the NFL draft. We have a lot of things coming at you over the next few weeks. But today is going to be a Vikings salary cap situation update because Over the Cap has put out a really interesting article. And we have touched on a lot of this stuff, but Jason from Over the Cap has just kind of laid it out. You know, here is where the Vikings are at compared to some other teams. We're going to give you that update, play some Purple Daily Would You Rather, and then we'll hit you with another episode today of Write That Down predictions and a quarterback cesspool challenge update after Judd tells you about Livea, our friends helping you lose weight to start 2024. Judd?
Spring is on the way, and you're saying to yourself, you know what? Before spring arrives, I want to lose some weight. I want to get in shape. In fact, the guy right there, if you are watching this, that's Sports Dad on the left and Sports Dad on the right, and you're saying, well, what's the difference, Sports Dad? And he's going to tell you right now. Down 40 pounds. That's a couple of years back, but yes, Livea Weight Control Centers is going to help you get to your goal weight, and the best part is they are going to help you stay there. And that's the most important thing. Their dietitians and nutritionists do an outstanding job there with you every step of the way. And now some breaking news. They're offering their breakthrough weight loss medications in their centers. This is going to help you actually even more. And it's this simple. Give them a call, 855-GO-LIVEA, Livea.com. Livea, Livea.com is how you are going to drop that weight and feel great for spring.
So let's look at this really interesting article. Deck sent this to us yesterday from Jason at Over the Cap, and where the Vikings are at in terms of their cap situation and what they could save by extending a few players. So I'm just going to read you this, and then we can react to it. No team can save more cap space in 2024 than the Vikings with like their current players or impending free agents. Mm-hmm. The Vikings can prevent over $30 million in salary cap charges from hitting the cap in 2024 by extending 3 players: Kirk Cousins, Danielle Hunter, and Marcus Davenport. Mm-hmm. So if the Vikings were to extend, and I will say this, we've gone over all of this in one form or another in our offseason blueprint episodes, but we'll kind of go a little bit deeper here. So Cousins has a $28.5 million dead cap charge. It's not $28 million that the Vikings owe him. They've already paid him the $28 million. But they have done some accounting magic wanding, some accounting ninja work, and they took $28.5 million from his previous contract and put it on void years, essentially. Right now it's spread over 4 void years. If Cousins doesn't re-sign a new contract by the first day of the league year, or whatever that date is, it's like the first week in March. Judd, you nailed this a few months ago. Mm-hmm. If they don't reach a new agreement with Kirk Cousins, then they have a $28.5 million cap charge, which is like 12% of their overall cap. Without him even being on the team, they owe that to the books, right? If they sign him to an extension, they would only need to account for $10 million from the previous accounting money, and they could take the other 18.5 and spread it out over the course of the deal. But it also doesn't account for what is his new contract going to be. So that money doesn't go away. But if you sign him to a new contract, you can actually take a large chunk of that accounting money and spread it over the course of 4 years, which lessens your load for 2024. The same is true for Danielle Hunter, who's got a $15 million dead cap charge for this year. If you sign him to an extension, only 7.5 would hit the books this year, and you would prorate the rest across. But here's the thing. So I did this exercise on the Over the Cap calculator because I'm not trying to call out Jason from OTC. He's laying out information, but he's doing the same thing that so many people are doing, which is, well, you could just sign so-and-so to an extension and then shove money into the future and you save cap space for 2024. It's great. Right, but like the Vikings are trying to build something beyond 2024, presumably. So let's say, for instance, you sign Kirk Cousins to a 2-year, $70 million extension. That seems fair, right? PFF's projecting like 2 years, 60.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he could threaten, hey, we've back channeled with the Falcons, we've back channeled with the Raiders. It's going to be more than the $30 million. So let's just say it's 2 years, $70 million. Mm-hmm. We'll give Kirk a $25 million signing bonus that you can prorate also over the duration of the contract, and a $10 million base. So Kirk gets paid $25 million signing bonus up front, $10 million base guaranteed. So he gets 35. The Cousins family gets $35 million in cash right now, 2024. To fill out the rest of the 2 year, $70 million, you'd have to give him a $35 million base in 2025. So what would that do to your cap? Well, it would reduce your cap hit in 2024 from 28.5 down to 26.5. It's great. $26.5 million cap hit for Kirk Cousins. Let's go, baby, right? That helps you in 2024. Well, let's look ahead to 2025 then, when he would have a $51.5 million cap hit and an additional $20 million in dead void money in 2026. So I'm not trying to pick on over the cap here, but to frame it as you can save money by signing Kirk Cousins to an extension, well, you could certainly finagle your way to save more money in 2024 and run it back again. But now you're staring down the barrel of crazy cap hits in 2025 and dead money again in 2026. So, I mean, it's all how you look at it. Are you okay with that on a Kirk Cousins contract extension is the question.
Well, and Jason's suggestion is the ultimate game of kick the can, which the Vikings have been playing already. And you know what? I'll go to Hunter and Davenport. And like, if you want to know the ridiculous nature of doing this, and Jason's right, and the Vikings have done this, like this is something that they have done. But when you mentioned Davenport, what, are you kidding me? Like, he's going to cost you. That was a mistake. Eat the mistake and get done with it. I'm not bringing him back. He doesn't want to play football. So he doesn't want to play football. They made it very clear he could have come back. He didn't come back. He doesn't want to play. Okay, you took your chance. It makes no sense to prolong this, okay? So the reality is, if they take this route, to me, it's become very clear that one, Kwesi and O'Connell, at least one, if not both, are setting themselves up for a huge fall. Because if you struggle now in 2024, you're done. Like, you are going into year 3 of a 4-year contract. You're telling me that you're going to, like, and keep in mind too, okay? The Minnesota Vikings in their last 20 games, including the playoff loss to the Giants, I have them at 8-12. So, like, this team, since the really, really good start record-wise to the 2022 campaign, has struggled. And so now you're telling me that you're going to run this entire thing back again? Then I see a couple of things. One is, this is the Wilfs pulling the chain here. Like, you're afraid to tell them the truth. Or they're just flat out saying, no, you can't make moves. But you also are losing control of the entire program. Because if that's the case, I don't think you're going to make it. Not unless you not unless you tell me that this is going to result in an extended playoff run or Super Bowl title. So that's where I think this whole thing, and it goes beyond Kirk. You know, when you're talking about, let's kick the can on Davenport, are you serious? You're idiots if you do that. And we did see some signs last year of being willing to make moves that were going to help you in the future, i.e. the Thielen move. Yeah. That was a very smart move. But you got to take some pain here, guys. Like, are you really going to continue to look at this division and say, you know what? What we're going to do is we're going to continue to be the Minnesota Vikings as they've been known basically since Zimmer walked out the door. And we're going to try with this team. You're going to take no pain. And while I could see the Lions taking a step back, look at all the draft collateral that team has. Like, I don't think they might take a step back in 2024. I don't think they're in for like this prolonged necessarily period of being bad. The Packers might have found a QB. You don't, and they're going to continue to grow that. The Bears, I think, are 1,000% on the right track if they get the QB right. So all of this is a long way of saying you're really going to continue to operate under a philosophy that I think has been proven that at some point in time has to be stopped. It's a cycle. You're in a cycle. It's a drug. Let's compete. Let's compete. Let's compete. Well, at some point in time, look at what you have and say, okay, you know what? We tried. We really tried. And no one's going to say you didn't try. And let's regroup from there.
So there's obviously there's always ways in the short term. There's so many tricks you can use in the short term to clear money right now. But the money doesn't go away. That's what what they did last year was they basically went to Kirk Cousins. They didn't even have to, well, they did have to go to him because I think they had to get his permission to like add a void year. I can't remember, but
they did.
So he agreed, okay, yeah, you guys we couldn't agree on a long-term deal. We can add a void year to this thing so we can reduce the cap hit. He's like, I still get my money in 2023, right? Okay, yeah, that's cool. Whatever. If you guys want to do some accounting wizardry, that's fine. That money doesn't just like go away. You have to, eventually the money hits the books and it prevents you from maybe signing a free agent 26-year-old Justin Madubuike, or, a defensive tackle who can pass rush. So just to, because we're in the weeds here and this is very football-y, but let's just keep going in the weeds, okay? Let's say you do the Cousins contract that we just said. So it's a 2-year extension, $70 million. And on the surface, you might say that sounds like a discount. You got a guy who was performing at a top 10 level for $20 million less a year than some of the top of the market quarterbacks. That's great. But you combine that with the $28.5 million left over from last year's contract in the way that we did, okay? And then let's say Danielle Hunter, we give him a 3-year, $66 million extension. 2 of those years are basically guaranteed. And we give him a $15 million signing bonus. We give him a $7 million base. So that's $22 million for this year. Then it's $22 million guaranteed next year. $22 million not guaranteed for the 3rd year, which is kind of funny money, right? So we got those guys back. Here we go. Let's rock and roll, okay? So you've got some cap space to play with. You wind up kind of breaking even for this year. It's a little bit more for Danielle, a little bit less for Kirk Cousins and cap space. But in 2025, here's what that does to your books, okay? You go from, right now, the Vikings have the 5th most cap space of any team in the NFL for 2025, 2 years from now. If you do these 2 contracts with Kirk Cousins and Danielle Hunter and run it back, baby, let's rock and roll again in 2024, you go from having the 5th most cap space in 2025 offseason to bottom 10. Is that worth it? Or would you rather have a ton of cap space in 2025, take your medicine in 2024? You could also, if you wanted to, you could say goodbye to Kirk, not pay the $65 or $70 million. You could sign a 1-year bridge quarterback, and you could draft a guy, and then the bridge guy comes off the books in 2025. So you're done with paying quarterbacks ridiculous amounts of money, and you have a rookie scale contract for year 2, year 3, year 4 going forward. So just like, you can clear space for this year, that's great, but then you might go from 5th in cap space in 2025 to bottom 10. Again, is that a trade-off that you're willing to make for running it back?
Kwesi talks about asset management too, right? So they have all of this potential dead money staring them right in the face, and Kirk, Danielle, and Marcus Davenport, which I think they can just eat and say, you know what?
Yeah.
Thanks.
We're
Goodbye.
Good.
We're good there.
See you, guy.
But it's probably very unlikely that they let all of these cap charges hit them. He's going to look at one of these, and I'm sure there's going to be a conversation of which one of these 2, in Kirk or Danielle, can we bring back to lessen that penalty, to lessen that load that is hanging against us for 2024. I would be shocked if they let all 3 of those, and I should say Kirk and Danielle, walk away for that reason. So, yes, I would personally allocate that money to Danielle. But there's no chance either. I think they just let all 3 of this take the medicine and then move on. I think Kwesi will have some, whether it's external influence from the Wilps or just the football management in general, that says we have to do something here and bring one of these guys back to lessen the load so we're not being absolutely hammered by penalties in 2024.
But if you were to just let them all, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do this. I don't think ownership would do this. But if you were to say, you know what, Danielle's 29. He's still really good, but he's closer to like 10th among edge rushers than where Nick Bosa's at and some of the like Max Crosby. You know what? He can go sign with the Jaguars or somewhere, and we'll eat that will eat the dead cap penalty in 2024. And Kirk, man, we're not gonna do the 2 years guaranteed anymore, man. If the Falcons want to do 2 years guaranteed, that's great, but like we can't do that. You're coming off an Achilles. You would not be very good in 2024. Saying goodbye to Kirk and saying goodbye to Daniil, right? Unless you bring in like Madubuike and you bring in some free agents that can kind of make up for it. But you would have ultimate flexibility in 2025. You would have, like I said, the 5th most cap space of any team in the NFL, and you'd be able to go you could start spending that cap space this offseason too. You could sign a guy, backload the contract, signing bonus. So they have a month left to be parsing out what they want to do with these guys, and these are some big decisions.
Well, the Combine's, I think, going to decide Kirk, because they've got to decide there. Like, they don't have you cannot take this into March. I think it's 13th. You've got to have that done, because to your point, you're not going to take the penalty and pay him. Yeah. Daniil, I think, is one where if Doogie's right and his reporting is that Daniil wants to stay here, perhaps you can get, now if I was him, I would not give you a deal, but perhaps you can get a better deal from his camp. But the other thing too is, and this is where the kicking the can down the road, I think people have grown confused. We are now kicking the can down the salary cap road for teams that might be okay. This used to be a Super Bowl move. This used to be 2018. You signed Kirk to a guaranteed contract because you said we are ready to pop. And guess what? I can't find a quarterback. Kirk Cousins is the best one. I don't know why he's available. It makes very little sense that a franchise quarterback is, but let's take a chance there. But that used to be, the thought process was, we are ready to win a Super Bowl. If you could sit here and tell me that you think the 2024 Vikings, short of a miracle, divine intervention, are ready to win a Super Bowl, give me some of your grass, because I'd like to smoke it too. Like, this team literally would be trying to tread water. And again, I will remind you, because the Cousins fans will say, look at his start statistically this year. Look at even with all of that, you were 0-3 and 1-4. That's not to fault him. That's to say you were 0. So you got a lot of holes here. You got a lot of faults. In my opinion, this is where you look at things and say, this is time to hit a reset button, not rebuild necessarily, not tank. Hear me clearly. Reset button.
Yeah, they're not going to be garbage no matter what.
Exactly. Like, but I'm just saying, every time we talk about this, I get tank now, and tank is such a nasty word. But this is a time to hit a reset button, and unless everybody is willing to give me a hometown discount, now is not the time to pay ridiculous salaries. I think Declan's right from the Wilfs perspective. Like, I think they're going to say, let's keep one. We have to keep one. But that being said, I would, if they did all 3 or 2 of the 3 and took themselves from 2025 being in great cap shape to being in poor shape, that's some big time mismanagement.
So as we're talking here, I just plugged in an estimated Justin Jefferson contract extension too, because that's another big thing that has to be figured out this offseason. So we landed on, in our discussion, I think it was the first offseason blueprint episode from like 2 days after the Vikings ended their season. And we landed on using the Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa is the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, $34 million a year. So we're estimating $35 million a year is what it's going to take to get Justin Jefferson locked in, right? So let's call it 5 years, $175 million, which takes him through like his late 20s. $50 million signing bonus, $125 million guaranteed. So you could argue one way, but it's not going to be a lot less than that. You could say, well, it's going to be more like $33 million, but it's good. The contract's going to look like about $35 million a year. Mm-hmm. There's some leeway on the signing bonus, all right? If you plug in that contract or something similar, the Vikings, they can actually save cap space for this year. They can do that contract, shove money into the future,
right? And
they could save like $5 or $8 million in cap space with Justin Jefferson, and you've cleared some room for 2024. This is great. But now that we've done a Kirk Cousins 2-year ironclad guaranteed deal, we've done a Daniil Hunter extension, and we've extended Justin Jefferson. In 2025 now, a year from now, going into the offseason, The Vikings have 18 million in effective cap space, fifth lowest mark in the NFL.
Right.
And
So-
we haven't even talked about Christian Darrisaw and like some of these other players. It's a 53-man roster, right?
So to do this, you then have to sit down at TCO Performance Center and say we are on the precipice of a Super Bowl. Like we think to do these contracts, all of them, you have to say that we think in 2024 we are one of the top 2 to 3 teams in the conference at least.
Yeah.
And top 5 in the entire league. And
Now
if
you
you can
s-
say that, okay.
Yeah. You could say goodbye, and they will, to Harrison Smith, by the way, and get that number up a little bit back to 40, but you're still bottom 10 in cap space compared to what you would be if you were to, use this as a reset. So but you bring up the point a few minutes ago about how close are you to winning a Super Bowl?
Right.
And if objectively the answer is, well, I know we beat the 49ers in October, and that was great. Had a great October. But we're not like a healthy guy and a free agent away from actually winning 13 games, maybe getting a bye, like all the things that it's not just win 9 or 10 games and get in.
Right.
It's play home games in the playoffs, unless you have Patrick Mahomes who can go on the road for 3 straight rounds against future Hall of Fame quarterbacks, right? How can you set yourself up in the best position to maybe get a bye in the first round, to play an extra home game in that second round, right?
And
is this the path?
And here's the real question: are you built for January?
Yeah.
Like you can't be thinking
been in a long
if
time.
if you're doing contracts and thinking, you know what, September through December, we're going to kick some ass. We're going to kick some ass, and then we're going to fall apart because we're mentally weak, because we're weak up front. But the regular season, we are going to be great. Okay, that's great. But are you telling me in a lot of these games that we've watched that you can see, and we had this conversation last year, the Minnesota Vikings competing at a high level in January right now? And before you say, oh, hold on a second, Chud, you don't know. Yeah, I do. They hosted a playoff game indoors last year, and they fell apart.
Yeah, it's
This is tough.
It is tough, and I get it. Like
tough, folks.
I
Tough
get
love.
I get how tantalizing it is to say, man, they were on a freaking roll, and then Kirk tore his Achilles, and if they could have just kept it going, and if they do this, then okay, then we will look for ways in March to play this same game, and okay, how can now they've made these decisions now? How can we make the best out of it? How can they build this team? But I don't know. It's kind of screaming, you have a really good chance in 2025 to have clean books, get younger. This is a great quarterback draft. Doesn't mean you have to be garbage in 2024. You can still compete. You don't have to tank in 2024 to set yourself up really well for 2025. So
And your division is telling you that too. Your division is giving you the grace of you possibly being right now the worst team in the division, okay? So like if it's like Detroit still sucks and Green Bay, let's say Jordan Love was terrible and the Bears were woeful with no upside, no talent coming, you might say, hold on a second here, we could grab this thing. And you never know. You never know what's going to happen. But right now, I think it's pretty clear cut that of the talent-wise of the 4 teams overall, I'm not talking superstars, overall, 53-man rosters, you're the weakest team right now.
if you include the fact that Daniil is an unrestricted free agent and Kirk is an unrestricted free agent, yeah, I mean they don't have a defensive front. DJ Wanham is a free agent.
But if you bring Daniil back, let's say you bring him back, I think you're still the weakest team from a roster construction standpoint.
We should do that episode. It's a discussion between Bears and Vikings more than it was 6 months ago, right? I mean, they had the same record.
Water tables rising in Chicago.
The Bears have some good pieces. They have 2 top 10 draft picks. So that was just a little bonus episode with the over the cap write up. I know we're super in the weeds on cap stuff. It's very nerdy, but we take an interest in it. It's really important over the next month as the Vikings try to figure out how all in are they for 2024 versus maybe a 3-year window. A shout out, if you're a business owner, by the way, to our friends at Federated. So Federated Insurance was recently just named one of the 10 best employers in the state of Minnesota by Forbes. So great place to work and great place to work with. Face-to-face and eye-to-eye is what Federated Insurance believes in. And it's part of what makes them stand out in the insurance industry. Those relationships that they build. They have marketers, underwriters, risk management personnel, claims professionals, all under one name to help keep your business moving forward and looking out for risks on the horizon. Federatedinsurance.com, where you can find more information about the 100-plus year history of this great company. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. Over on the other episode of Purple Daily today, write that down, predictions, a ton of drama with 2 weeks to go in the 2023-24 write that down season, and a quarterback cesspool challenge update too. So thanks for hanging out with us in these over the cap weeds today on Purple Daily.